What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're looking at the latest update to ASICS Magic Speed series. This is the Magic Speed 4, and throughout the years ASICS has made some big changes to each iteration, and version 4 is no different. Let's get into it. Let's get started with those disclosures. This video is in partnership with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me this pair of the ASICS Magic Speed 4 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say, they don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you can pick up a pair of the ASICS Magic Speed 4 from Roadrunner Sports for $170. And of course, I'll place links in the show notes below in case you want to pick up a pair for yourself. Well guys, the ASICS Magic Speed 4 is a plated performance trainer. You know, it's going to fit that space in your rotation where you log those faster efforts, and if you didn't want to spend all that money on ASICS top-of-the-line race day shoe, the Metaspeed Edge and Sky Paris, the Magic Speed 4 would work well for that. Now, I said that ASICS has made some big changes with version 4 of the Magic Speed, and the first of those changes is with the stack height. The Magic Speed 4 now has 43.5 in the heel, 35.5 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Last year it was a 7mm drop and about 5mm less stack height. ASICS claimed that in a US men's size 9, the Magic Speed 4 would tip the scale at 8.6 ounces or 245 grams, but in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 10.2 ounces or 289 grams. So it's a pretty light shoe. But this up-tempo plated performance trainer is a very popular segment of the market, and the Magic Speed 4 is going to be in direct competition with the Endorphin Speedfall, also the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, we can't forget the Mizuno Neo Vista, and of course the Tier Valkyrie Speedworks. Well, let's start at the top and work our way down. Now, the Magic Speed 4 has very minimal padding around this heel collar. Now, it might look like it's a little thick, but it's really not. Definitely not race day thin, but ASICS is saving weight right here. However, with that said, I didn't notice any discomfort when I put my foot in. I thought there was enough padding around the heel collar to really do the job, and it's actually a very comfortable shoe. Now, the heel counter is only semi-rigid. Like if I hold this up, I can push that in. However, it is rigid enough to hold my heel in place, and I didn't even get a whiff of heel slip in the Magic Speed 4. For the upper, ASICS has changed to a breathable engineered mesh. Last year it was their motion wrap, so it was a little more race inspired. This year the engineered mesh upper has a little more substance to it, but it is very breathable. And I know I said that this upper has a lot of substance to it. I think it's just a little stiff. It's still very thin, and that's what's contributing to the breathability. As far as the overlays go, we got the logos on both sides, a lot of reinforcement coming along the eyelet chain. Now the Magic Speed 4 does have that extra hole in case you want to do the lace lock. However, I didn't use it, and as I already said, there was no heel slip for me. We have an underlay coming around the toe bumper just to keep that upper off your foot. And then as far as structure for the upper goes, ASICS is just using different weaves in this mesh upper. It works quite well. The tongue is super thin. It's almost like a race day tongue. I mean, it's that thin. Now, I didn't have any lace bite when I had the shoe cinched down, but since I've been sitting here filming this video, I was kind of manipulating the tongue, and it's so thin that it did occur to me that if you had trouble with laces kind of biting into the top of your foot, there isn't much padding here to stop that. Now, again, I didn't experience that, but I guess depending on the shape of your foot, it's a possibility that you may. Now, the tongue does have a lace loop right here in the middle. It's fully gusseted on both sides, and when the shoe was strapped on, I didn't have any tongue migration at all. The laces are a flat linguine shape, really nothing to speak about. You know how I prefer those serrated laces, just so when I lock down the shoe, I know they're not going anywhere. The Magic Speed 4 doesn't have those, but the shoes never came untied, so I really can't complain. The sock liner on the Magic Speed 4 is not removable, so if that's something that you like, you're not going to be able to take it out and replace it with anything custom. Now, I usually remove my sock liners at the end of every run just to let them dry out a little bit, and then I stuff the shoe with newspaper, but obviously I couldn't do that with these, and it really made no difference. Now, let's come down to the midsole. Alright, now just like last year, with the Magic Speed 3, ASICS is using Flight Foam Blast Plus. However, the eagle eye of you are probably going to notice this right here. There's just some big branding saying FF Turbo, Flight Foam Turbo. And that's a little misleading because everything you see here, this is all Flight Foam Blast Plus. But this year, ASICS has included a little puck in the forefoot of Flight Foam Blast Plus. Now also, there is a full-length carbon fiber plate that runs from toe to heel, and the plate in the Magic Speed 4 does have a little swallowtail, and I imagine that's just to make it a little more flexible when you're touching down heel first. So we've got that top layer of Flight Foam Blast Plus, we have the carbon fiber plate, we've got a bottom layer of Flight Foam Blast Plus, and then underneath the plate in the forefoot, kind of notched out into that Flight Foam Blast Plus, is that little puck of Flight Foam Turbo. Now, I've got to tell you that this is the first Magic Speed that I've ever run in. So did I notice that little puck of Flight Foam Turbo? I don't know. I gotta say no. At least I had nothing to compare it to. But I guess the whole package did feel snappy, and there has to be in some part to that puck of Flight Foam Turbo, so I'll say it's a plus. It's definitely a marketing plus because they get to put it right here on the midsole. Oh, in case you're wondering, the ASICS Magic Speed 4 does fit true to size, fits me like every other ASICS shoe, and 95% of running shoes out there. I didn't have to size down, I didn't have to size up. Now, I was concerned because of this giant stack height, remember 43.5 in the heel, that the shoe was going to be a little unstable. If I hold it up, you can see this ASICS grip outsole, plenty of it here, but what I'm showing you is that it's not very wide. It didn't seem wide, and I thought it may be be a little unstable. I was pleasantly surprised that for a shoe with this stack height, it was actually pretty stable. Even when I was jumping up and down curves and going around corners, I didn't notice any lateral movement. The shoes didn't give me a feeling like I was going to slide off the top. Coming back down to the bottom just for a second, we can see we've got that cutout with the carbon fiber plate visible. And although you can't see it, I just noticed it now. I'm seeing a little bit of wear right here on my lateral heel, and that's just where I touch down, especially at slower speeds. Up here on my forefoot, everything is looking really good. So actually nothing surprising. I'm going to say right in line with an industry standard as far as wear goes. So now we're on to ride. And look, when you get a shoe with 43.5 in the heel, 35.5 in the forefoot, you're going to think, oh, that's a lot of foam. It's going to be a super plush ride. And when you first put your foot in, you are probably going to experience the same thing as I did, in that it doesn't feel particularly soft. But this is not a plush shoe. This shoe is made for going fast, and when we're going fast, we want to have, a little bit of firmness so we can feel the road, or give us the illusion that we're feeling the road. But also, once I started running in it, even though I thought it was going to be soft, and then I was surprised that it was a little firmer than I thought, I was then surprised again that it didn't feel that firm. So when I started running in it, it wasn't as firm as I expected. It's actually a very pleasant ride. Now, this shoe is made for going fast, and that was the majority of runs that I put into it. I would take this out on workout days where I could really open up my stride, get my legs turning over, and see how the shoe performed. And it performs pretty well. In fact, you're not going to be surprised when I say that the shoe performed much better at faster speeds than it did at slower speeds. Now, unlike some of its competition, I don't think the Magic Speed 4 is quite as well-rounded as some of the competition. So I know with some of the other shoes that I showed you earlier, I would just as well take them out for an easy run as I would for a workout. That's probably not going to be the case with the Magic Speed 4, and as I've been thinking about it, I think it comes down to stiffness, or it's probably a matter of stiffness and geometry, because all those other shoes that I was comparing it to, they also have plates and they're also fairly stiff. But I did notice that at slower speeds, the Magic Speed 4 did just feel a little stiff, and by that I mean when I am rolling through my gait cycle, it just felt a little bit clunky when I'm rolling from heel to toe. Of course, that goes away immediately when you start giving it a little bit of an effort, picking up the pace a bit, because you start putting more energy into the ground, you load that plate a little more, and it's able to respond appropriately and send you off on your way. So with that in mind, I think the Magic Speed 4 actually fits exactly where ASICS wants it to fit in their whole lineup, right? In this time of specificity, we don't want one shoe to do everything. Or at least the shoe companies don't want one shoe to do everything. They want you to buy a shoe for each individual run that you do. Now with that said, I think the Magic Speed 4 is an excellent, less expensive race day option if you didn't want to drop that $250 for the Metaspeed Edge, Sky or Paris. Now I've got to tell you, this Flight Foam Blast Plus is nothing like the Flight Foam Turbo Plus in the Metaspeed Edge, Sky and Paris. Like, it's not on the same level at all, but it's good enough. And I found the Magic Speed 4 to be very responsive, very quick, and a fun shoe to run in. Oh, there was one other thing that I wanted to tell you about before I let you go, and this was surprising to me. That remember, we've got an 8mm drop. When I put my foot into this, it almost seemed like I could notice the drop, right? It felt like my heel was just slightly higher than my toes, and I don't experience that in shoes. Even shoes with like a giant 12mm drop. For me, it's hard to notice, but I did have that feeling with the Magic Speed 4. Now, I recognize that my feet are not tuned enough to actually recognize that minute difference between heel and toe, so it's just a perception, but it was my perception, so it's valid. And if you have run in the Magic Speed 4, I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you can actually feel the drop. Is it noticeable? Drop a comment and let me know. Alright my friends, don't forget you can pick up a pair of the ASICS Magic Speed 4 at Roadrunner Sports. I'll place a link in the show notes below. But for now, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the ASICS Magic Speed 4. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.